Hello, everyone. Um, Thank you for joining. I think people are still joining at this point. Let's wait for another couple of seconds, let's say, until everyone is joining. So while this happens, I'm really happy to start with the introduction. So I'm Alexandra Dima. I'm senior researcher at the Vegizona Bedian Research Institute here in Barcelona. And I'm really happy to meet you here online for this Enable webinar. So I think quite a lot of you are familiar with Enable. Some of you are just coming across Enable as a new project, and it's the first time you hear about it. So for those of you that are new to Enable, let me give you a bit of a background. So Enable is a research network focused on promoting best practices and technologies in medication adherence. So we started this network about 4 years ago and more in 2020 as part of a cost action. And many of you have participated to this cost action. And of course, more information can be accessed on the website that you can see the link for on this screen. Myself, together with Marcia Vervloet, here also joining us today, we have co-chaired the working group, the Enable Working Group for Medication Adherence Technologies. And we have led the development of the Enable repository. So a repository that you can also find on this website and includes many medication adherence technologies. And many of you have participated to the development of this repository, maybe as members of researchers, of members of the different country teams that have contributed to this, and perhaps also some of you as developers of the technologies that are there already or are planning to be joining us soon. So one question that you might have is, how did this webinar come up? What was the idea? And it was basically in a way of on popular request to say like this. During the Enable meetings that we've had for these 4 years, and also the training activities that we have performed. Many of you said, well, behavior science is a big field. It's sometimes very hard to tackle, hard to enter in a way. There's a lot of technical words, a lot of complex things there to get your head around. And you were saying, maybe perhaps we can have, like in a nutshell, a short introduction, clear examples, understandable, accessible examples that are relevant for medication adherence and relevant for technology development, and can be synthesized and can provide a sort of a gate to this territory for maybe for technology developers or for researchers that have started working in medication adherence or adopting behavior science in their field, or maybe even for more experienced among you who know the field, who understand the concepts, but would like to see different ways of explaining it in a nutshell and getting to grips with it. So we started working on it a couple of months ago, and a key contribution here we have from Sara Gonzalez. And, this is all 4 of us who have participated actively in the preparation of this work. So Sara is a psychology student. She's a very talented final year student at the University of Barcelona, and she has joined here the FAD for her final year internship. And basically, since October, we've been discussing a lot about behavior science. She's read a lot of the key literature on this. She's applied it to different apps, different technological solutions involving medication adherence, and we've discussed a lot about how can we synthesize this in a few minutes for yourself in a lunch webinar. And we've been very happy to count with the contribution of 2 Enable members, very active Enable members, and adherence researchers. One of them is Marcia Vervloet, that I already mentioned. She's a senior researcher at NIVEL in the Netherlands, and we've been working together on the development of the repository. And another is Marie Eckenberg, who has led basically the development of the repository in Sweden. And many of you know her very well. And she's a pharmacist and PhD student at the Uppsala University. So basically, what is on the menu today? Our lunch menu, for those of you who share the same time zone, is focusing on medication adherence technologies and behavior change, behavior science. So we try to put these these two concepts together and see what are the links between them, with a focus on the combi model, which is a very synthetic and very rich and useful model for starting thinking about behavior science, and with a focus on patient perspective. So we try to highlight different barriers that they could experience in different phases of the treatment, and also focus a bit on this distinction that is very useful when trying to intervene and support patients is intentional and unintentional adherence. And our core focus today is to give you sort of a first some tips and tricks, let's say, into how to identify specific behaviors and determinants, how to select behavior change techniques, and how to link these three elements together to provide solutions for patients through technologies or technology-supported interventions. So in a nutshell, Sarah is going to give you about 20 minutes of key points and key background into medication adherence and technologies. And then we will go through some examples from the previous projects and experience of Marcia and Marie. And then you will get a chance to practice these new concepts or known concepts in an example, in an interactive example. So quite a packed program for the next hour. I will stop talking and then give the floor to Sarah for the first her introduction to behavior science.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you everyone for being here today in this webinar, where we are going to talk about the ways of boosting medication adherence technologies, an important issue since non-adherence to treatment poses a significant challenge to the effective management of chronic diseases. And an effective strategy to enhance adherence embraces various approaches, from simplifying treatment regimes to fostering a strong patient-clinician relationship. And of course, technology plays a crucial role in addressing these challenges that patients face. However, to effectively identify and address these challenges, it is essential to analyze the factors influencing medication taking, as it is ultimately a complex human behavior. Here is where comes behavioral science, which is an interdisciplinary field that examines the factors that influence human actions. It integrates insight from psychology, neuroscience, economic, marketing, and public policy to understand and guide behavioral change. And behavior change aims to discover why individuals or groups act in certain ways and what can effectively motivate them to adopt healthier and more desirable behavior. So, according to the Combi model, which is a theoretical psychological framework for understanding and influencing human behavior, the factors influencing human behavior can be grouped in three essential components that must interact to enable any behavior to occur. Those are capability, opportunity, and motivation. So, understanding these components can provide explanations for why a recommended behavior is not engaging, and by systematically assessing them, we can identify the barriers to behavior and design target interventions to promote sustainable and effective changes. So first, capability refers to the individual physical and psychological capacity to engage the behavior, whether we have the knowledge, skills, and abilities to engage the behavior. Opportunity are those factors lying outside the individual that make performance of the behavior possible, such as resources in the environment that enable the execution of the behavior, or maybe social environment that can include support, encouragement, or pressure from others that can either facilitate or hinder the adoption of a particular behavior. Finally, motivation are those brain processes that boost and direct behavior and decision making. So, for example, it may be helpful to turn a desired behavior from something one needs to do to something one wants to do, or encouraging reflection on the benefits of performing that behavior. These brain processes can be conscious, like decision making, plans, and evaluation of pros and cons, or can be unconscious, such as impulses, habits, or emotional responses. So, an individual's behavior will change if these levers of change are successfully implemented. And this model, the COMBI, recognizes that behavior is influenced by many factors. But regarding medication adherence, these factors may look different along the treatment. That's why we have here these charts of interaction between the COMBI model that is in the column. We have capability, opportunity, and motivation. And in the rows, we have the three main phases that patients go through when following a prescribed treatment in chronic conditions. So initiating refers to the decision to start the prescribed medication, and it can last from weeks to months since we are talking about chronic conditions. So we could say that this phase lasts until a solid routine is created, although the limits of each phase are a little blurry and each particular case must be taken into account. The continuing phase involves the patient commitment to follow the treatment plan consistently over time, and the maintaining phase refers to the long-term adherence to medication. So, acting on capability, for example, may look different at the beginning of the treatment and when the patient has been taking the medication for years. In the initial phase, for example, the aim is for the patient to start taking the medication, not that they perform perfectly without missing doses or that they can expect adverse effects if they miss a dose, but simply that they start taking the medication and feel confident and understand what its regime is about. So, for example, understanding the diagnosis, the purpose of the treatment, or how to take the medication are basic capabilities that the patient does, that if the patient doesn't have them, they are unlikely to start the treatment correctly. Same happens with external opportunities. So what do we need from the environment when starting a treatment? Affordable treatment, for example, or being supported by the ones we love, as well as motivation in the initial phase can look like believing the treatment is a way of improving the quality of life that has been compromised due to the recent diagnosis and feeling empowered in this new aspect of the patient life. As we said, the continuing phase is when the patient commitments to follow the treatment consistently over time. And at this point, being capable of creating a routine would be an appropriate goal, as well as relate to potential adverse effects and manage them effectively, or at least know how to do so. So, to do so, the environment may provide opportunities of knowing what side effects look like, checking whether dosage adjustment is necessary, or tools on how to create a routine. Motivation in this continuing phase comes from being able to notice the benefits of the treatment and addressing doubts that may enhance motivation and continuing taking medication. Finally, long-term maintenance may be compromised by the patient's lack of ability to manage medication challenges such as travel, life events like losing a job, or a diminished belief that the treatment is important and necessary. So external opportunities such as continued access to social support, medication refills, and follow-up appointments enable patients to consistently maintain treatment. Long-term motivation depends on reinforcing the benefits of the treatment, even when the symptoms are no longer evident. Celebrating achievements or health gains helps also to maintain emotional commitment to the treatment. So overall, It involves ensuring that patient to continue to take their medication as prescribed despite the lifestyle changes or the fading perception of the condition's severity. So from what has been so far, it can be inferred that patients' engagement in adherence behavior is influenced by all their perception, that is motivation, and also the practical reality of their circumstances, that is the patient's ability. So, for example, when medication taking is impractical due to factors such as complex medication regimen and environmental factors like a busy schedule or high medication costs, can reduce the patient's ability to adhere to the prescribed schedule, resulting in unintentional non-adherence, due not to the patient's will of stopping medication, but to barriers out of the reach. So yeah, it can be said that facing challenging logistical factors can reduce the patient motivation to adhere to their treatment. Similarly, a patient experiencing minimal negative effects from skipping their medication, low confidence in their ability to remember to take the medication, and, for example, low expectations about the benefits of the medication would likely have low motivation to adhere to the medication regimen. And that reduction in motivation can negatively impact a patient's ability and willingness to adhere to the medication regimen. So when motivation wanes, patients may find it more challenging to prioritize the logistical aspects of medication adherence, resulting in a deliberately decision to stopping the treatment. So to address the unintentional non-adherence, practical solutions may be appropriate, such as reminders or administration instructions. And on the other hand, addressing intentional non-adherence looks like changing perception, concerns, or highlighting the benefits of the treatment. So far, we've seen the factors influencing the human behavior that concern us, the medication taking, that is a behavior. And now we will go more in depth on how this looks like from the patient perspective. So I introduce you to our patient, Marianne. She will share with us some concerns that may have regarding each treatment phase. So Marianne has just started her treatment. She's in her initiating phase and she wonders whether she feels confident in taking medication, when will she start taking it, how and why should she take it, for what reason. So now that we have our combi model glasses on, we can identify each factor of the combi in these thoughts. So, for example, the question, do I understand how I should take it, acts on her capability of performing the behavior, while the question, do I feel confident, would be efficacy perception that corresponds on motivation from the combi. So how can we as technologists address her concerns? So thinking that we are an app, for example, we can provide her clear instructions on how to take the medication in order to address her doubts. Do I understand? These instructions can look like a video, a manual, including dosage, timing, method of ingestion. And also we could, for example, check if she understood these instructions by providing her a quiz. We could also let her know the consequences of taking medication and also the consequences of not taking it. We can help her to set a starting point, identifying an appropriate place and time. That is a calm environment, a moment in the day that she knows she won't be distracted, for example. And regarding confidence, we could provide her with testimonials from other users, or we could include a feature of frequent asked questions. And of course, all of these will be more effective if it's formulated in a personalized way. So now it's been a few months and Marianne is now in her continuing phase. where she wonders if she has the medication by hand, for example, which is a clear opportunity factor. So that's the environment where I plan to perform this behavior, the medication taking. Does provide me with tangible resources that I need, or how do I continue every day? That sounds like, am I capable of creating a routine, and how can I do it if I have, for example, a very busy life? So, in order to help Marianne with creating a routine, for example, um, we can provide her with a reminder system, which is important that it pops up at the right time, as I said, in account context when she's going to perform the behavior, because if the reminder appears when she's at work, for example, she's likely to postpone it and not take the medication. So it's important for the reminder to be customizable, and also to encourage our patient to link the intake to her daily habits, so that those daily habits can work as an environmental cue and facilitate creating a routine, reducing her forgetfulness as well as with the reminder. And also, she could have a journal where tracking her intake is possible and may allow her to identify patterns of missing doses and therefore making changes in order to address those barriers. And also, we could add a reminder that could work as a refilling alert, and we could send it a few days before, for example. Also, information about routine disruptions like traveling or socially busy weekends may help her feel that her treatment is compatible with her life. And now, Marianne is a bit older. Some years have passed, and she has gotten a routine for long. She knows how to travel with her medication, but she feels her initial motivation has faded a bit. She wonders about her goal with the treatment. She isn't really aware of the positive effects of medication. She notices as well that side effects that are different from the ones she experienced in the past, and doesn't know how to manage them. And yeah, she in general doubts if she should keep going with this treatment. So here in the maintenance phase, it's important to keep motivation high and remind our patient Marianne the importance of the treatment, and help her to identify both improvements and side effects, and help her to manage them. So how can we do this? Maybe by gamifying the technology and making visual the progress of both quality on life and performance in taking her medication, which can be done with personalized feedback and visual progress charts. We can also add information from credible resources about side effects and how to manage them, so that we make Marianne feel safe and capable. We can provide her maybe with a channel to contact her clinician, or also add in the app some disclosure articles or scientific articles, and maybe some periodic reminders of the treatment importance, as well as setting long-term goals. So along the previous slides, we've seen tools or ways of addressing Marianne's challenges that were in a blue square. All those are called behavior change techniques, that are the active components of an intervention designed to change or regulate a behavior. So they are all organized in a taxonomy of 93 BCTs that has been developed by 54 experts from disciplines like psychology, behavioral medicine, and health promotion. And their aim was to address the lack of consensus in the field, because there wasn't any consensus in the labels used to name the behavior change interventions. So this led to confusion and undermined the potential to accumulate evidence because of the likely duplication of effort. So they created this taxonomy, and all these VCTs are numbered and named as we can see in these labels. So, for example, reminder systems are called prompt and cues. Having a tracking tool is named monitoring of behavior if we're talking about medication intake, or monitoring of emotional consequences if we're talking about emotional side effects. Also, we have action planning, information about consequences, which is very intuitive. But there are more like biofeedback, social reward, and yeah, as I mentioned, there are 93, and there is also a new taxonomy being developed with even more VCTs. But these 93 VCTs are attached here in this PDF, which looks more or less like this chart. It's very useful because it provides a detailed description of what needs to be done in order to be an effective intervention. So, for example, for action planning, we see the description that says prompt detailed planning of performance of behavior, and it details what must be included: context, frequency, duration, and intensity. And there is also an example. So same with feedback on behavior or prompt and cues. So it's specified in prompt and cues that the cue may occur at the time of performing the behavior, as we mentioned before as well. And here I rescued the Combi model. So we can say that each VCT acts on one or more factors of this Combi model. So, for example, if we want to act in the individual's physical and psychological capacity to engage the behavior, VCTs that shape knowledge are appropriate. Also, feedback and monitoring. Regarding opportunity, those are the factors outlining the individuals, such as resources in the environment. So giving cues and prompting or doing a demonstration of the behavior may be useful. And finally, acting on motivation would look like those VCTs that enable goal setting and remembering the pros of the medication intake. So how do we know which of these VCTs should be chosen? So to do so, following this chart will be helpful. First, it's important that we identify the behavior we want to address. So, for example, we have our patient Marianne that has to take her medication for hypertension daily. And we have to think now under what circumstances does that behavior occur. So Marianne may have a busy morning because she has to prepare herself for going to work, but also she's a mother of two and she has to get the children ready, make breakfast to them. Maybe she has to get her dog for a walk and so on. So imagine the context of Marianne. And now we imagine that under those circumstances, there are several barriers that affect her medication intake. So Marianne might forget to take her pills because she's focused in her children. Maybe they are all in a hurry because they are late for school, and Marianne might think, I don't have time to take my medication because we are late, but doesn't matter. It's not a big deal if I don't take my medication because skipping one dose will mean nothing. Or maybe she has not set a specific time for taking her medication, which means that she doesn't have a routine and might feel overwhelmed by creating one and feels that she isn't able to continue with the treatment because she has a busy life and so on. So, how can our technology address these barriers that Marianne has in order to take her medication? So, well, as we've seen, there can be several barriers for just one behavior, as well as there can be several specificities in order to address one barrier. So, in order to address the first determinant, we can encourage Marianne to select a time where she has no interruptions, maybe in the early morning where their children are not yet awake. And we can send her a notification so she does not forget. Um, we can deliver information of consequences of skipping a dose to address her doubt of it doesn't matter if I don't take my medication today. And we can also help her creating a routine with the VCTs of monitoring and feedback. So we allowed her to record her intake and maybe identify some patterns of missing doses and give her as well positive feedback when she does take her medication. So now that we know the VCTs that we are going to use, it's time to know what should be included in each VCT. So as I said, there are 93 and you have all of them in the taxonomy, but focusing on the 5 VCTs as we are using with Marianne, action planning, which is the detailed planning of the medication intake, should have the context that we've decided together with Marianne. That is going to be at the time that she has breakfast, when she hasn't awake her children, the frequency, duration, and the intensity, how much. Regarding prompts and cues, we will set a reminder, having in mind when she has breakfast, and we can also send her another reminder in case she didn't take her dose. And also we could suggest her to add some cues in her environment. So maybe she could have her pills near the coffee machine in order not to forget to take them. Regarding feedback and behavior, we can congratulate Marianne with a personalized message that can look like, "Great job, Marianne, you've taken your pill this morning. Time to go for today." Or in case that she missed the dose, we can send her um, a message saying, "No worries, Marianne, let's go back on track tomorrow." And yeah, those personalized message will help her motivation. So, as part as creating a routine, we can encourage Marianne to record her intakes just after it occurs so that she doesn't forget. We can also show her a weekly or monthly summary with the doses that she has taken. And we can provide her information on the impact of daily acts of taking medication to create a routine, as well as the positive consequences of taking medication, even when there are no symptoms. And all this can have a written format, maybe a video from a clinician, whatever creativity suggests. So now hope that we all know a bit more about change techniques and how to make them real. But it's known that real life isn't a theory, but thankfully we have Marcy and Marie that will help us with that, showing us some real world scenario from their professional experience. So now I give you the word, Marcy. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you very much, Sarah, for well this extensive description of how we can use VCTs. And now, well, I'm happy to contribute also with an example that I will show you, a concrete example from, well, my experience in my research career. So I would like you to meet Anna. Anna is taking oral. She has type 2 diabetes and she takes oral medication. And she knows she needs the medication to keep her condition stable. However, because of her busy life, she often forgets to take her pills, especially when her daily routine is disrupted, for example, in the weekend days. She finds it very annoying to get an alert to remind her of her intake if she has already taken the pills, and it encourages her to see she's doing well in taking her medication. So, how can Anna be supported in her medication use? She has already initiated her treatment, but she experiences difficulties in implementing her medication regime. So she is already in the implementation phase. She has already started the medication treatment, so the initiation phase, she's past that. And she does see the need to take her medication, and she also wants to take her pills, but she doesn't always succeed. So the type of non-adherence that Anna is experiencing is the unintentional non-adherence type. So she wants to take the pills, but due to practical barriers, she isn't able to. And well, a reminder would support her in a medication use, though this reminder needs to be tailored to her situation, because an everyday alert at the same periods or at the same time doesn't help her. She actually needs a reminder when she actually appears to forget to take her medication. So one of the technologies that can help her, with which I've got some experiences in my research, is real-time medication monitoring. So for my PhD project, already a while ago, I've investigated this technology. And to give a bit of an explanation, it includes using an electronic medication dispenser with which the medication intake is registered. So every time the Anna would open this dispenser, the date and the time will be registered. So in this real-time situation, or this real-time registration actually makes sure that there is a nice intake pattern available. Anna could then specify the time periods in which she usually or she needs to take her medication. And because of this real-time registration, the technology can identify whether the medication intake actually occurs within this time period. So that means when she opens the dispenser to take her medication. And if this intake is registered, then a reminder is not needed and also not sent. But if because of the real-time registration, an intake is not identified within this time period, then a reminder is actually necessary and also provided. So that can also avoid alert fatigue, as we also call it. And another feature that would help Anna, because she gets motivated when when she sees she's doing well. So she really likes the feedback that encourages her in taking her medication. And that is also for her to be able to see the intake patterns herself, so that she can see how she's doing. And this feedback can also help her to identify certain moments in which the intake is specifically difficult, and maybe act further upon that. So if we take a look at the BCT taxonomy, we've got the feedback and monitoring, which is one of the features of this concrete type of technology, but also the prompts and cues in which a reminder is sent customized to Anna's tailored situation. So this was just actually a short example from one of the technologies that could help, in this case, Anna, with the barriers that she is experiencing in using her medication. And also, an example of solutions that can be provided via a digital technology to support her in a medication use. And that was the example that I would like to describe to you, but Marie has got 2 more examples, so I'm happy to give her the floor.
Thank you, Marcia, and thank you so much, Sarah, for the introduction. So just as Marcia said, I will continue to show you a couple of examples and continue to build on what Marcia just said. So we have here the example of Jonas, who is an example from my research. So this is the patients I interviewed. And Jonas has a busy life, both working and traveling a lot in work. And he thinks it works quite well with his medication intake. But when he had been tracking for a few weeks, he realizes it's only when traveling he are missing doses. So this example is quite similar to Anna. It's a busy person and need helps with some kind of reminder, right? So Jonas also needs some type of reminder, but he only needs a reminder when traveling. So this is also, just as the previous example, an implementation phase problem. And it's unintentional non-adherence, of course. And when thinking about it, Jonas realizes that it's only when traveling he misses the doses. And when thinking a little bit more, he realizes I usually travel on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. So to be a little bit creative, his solution to this problem is to set an alarm only on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And hopefully they will remind him to take the medication only when he is traveling. But when he's talking about this, it's not optimal because sometimes he travels another day of the week and sometimes he's at home at Wednesdays and get annoyed when getting this reminder. So he would actually prefer a smarter way to deal with this. And he's traveling mostly to a specific city in Sweden for most of the time. So he was kind of reasoning, what type of technology could be available to help me with this problem? Could there be a technology maybe with a connection to a GPS, which only give me a reminder when I'm in a certain area? Or could it be connected to my calendar, for example, to see that I'm actually traveling? How could this technology be improved? Because now he had to come up with this idea by himself. He also mentioned to me that he would like some help from the technology to actually analyze when doses are missed, because now he had to do this analyzing himself, realizing it's only when traveling and it's mostly Tuesdays and Wednesdays. And by tracking, a technology would also see which time he actually misses a dose and help him realize this pattern quicker. So for the BCTs, in the case of Jonas, it's the same for Anna. He's tracking his medication adherence to become aware of the non-adherence. And he's realizing this pattern. So he's using the feedback and monitoring. He's monitoring the medication intake and get some feedback on it. And then he could set a specific reminder, which is prompt and cues. But with the technology, which could be a bit improved, it could also analyze the pattern and help him to realize which days he missed, and thereby shaping his knowledge. It could also provide other suggestions for how to improve medication adherence in these situations. Technology could also help him with the goals and planning and individualize the planning of intake according to the pattern of missed doses and so on. And the technology could also increase his self-reflection in this case and analyze it. And of course also suggest how to perform the behavior differently when traveling, when being in another setting. So a technology here could really improve his medication intake in several ways, but right now it's not available. So for a third example, we have the patient Tony, who has hypertension, just like Mariana example. And he doesn't notice any positive effects of the medication, but he only realizes or have the side effect of feeling faint quite often. And he almost faints every time he does physical exercise. So he's feeling very reluctant to take the medication these days when he wants to go to the gym. So sometimes he skips his medication due to the side effects. So Tony, he needs help to limit the side effects to some extent. And he needs help to keep a normal life, continue with this physical exercise while having side effects. So this is also implementation phase, but this instead is intentional non-adherence. He is choosing not to take the medication because of the side effects. So Tony, he starts by contacting his doctor, who's tackling the problem by changing the dosing regimen. So he has instead separating the intake. So he takes the dose twice a day instead of once a day. And the side effect gets a little better, but he still has problems doing physical exercise. So he needs more help with this. When he's tracking his symptoms, he realizes the problem mainly occurs when he is doing physical exercise between 3 to 6 hours after taking the medication. So after that, he actually creates a schedule where he can fit both physical exercise and medication intake during his day, but not having physical exercise in this time span when he had the most problems. So he could change his life after tracking his symptoms. So from the technology, he got help by tracking his medication intake, and he also was tracking his symptoms, his side effects. And he could adjust the dose a little bit and his training schedule after this. But he would also need or would want more support. In this case, Tony was very motivated and continued by himself and contacted the doctor and got help, but he also continued to try to solve the problem even after that. But not all patients are doing this. So what he might have needed, he might have needed some help when he started missing doses, getting some information about consequences of missing doses and so on. Shaping his knowledge in the field and getting to know his body and reactions. But the technology could also have helped him with planning the medication intake. So he didn't have to do this calculating himself, realizing how could I adjust my life according to this, to create a more sustainable routine. So a technology have several, could have helped him a lot more if available. So now you have gotten some more concrete examples of what patients actually want. Yes, thank you. That was everything from me.
Thank you, Marie and Marcy. Okay, now that we have 10 minutes left, we are going to practice a bit what we've seen so far. Well, first, I want to show you the bibliography in which this presentation was based, in case you want to go more in depth. But what I was saying is that we are going to practice, so we encourage you to join the Mentimeter, either with this code or the QR code, where we are going to see another example of Marianne. again and discussing a bit some questions.
I think while you are preparing the slides for the Mentimeter, I just want to acknowledge we have already two very good questions on the question and answer sheet. And one from Sander mentioning whether how to deal with the situation of asthma and why should I take it? So the reason for taking medication and how with parental medication, this can be quite difficult to explain to patients. And the other from Jesper on real-time monitoring systems and the best practices for real-time monitoring systems. I'm just wondering whether we can wait for doing the exercise first, the Mentimeter first, and then having some quick answers to these two questions. But also to say that to me, they seem very, very good topics for new webinars, because it's really, if you to go into depth and have an in-depth answer for these questions, I think there's a long story to each of them, and very, very useful to go into that. So shall we do the Mentimeter first, no? And then maybe we can still have a few minutes to answer these two questions, at least just to give some tips for some starting points. So Sarah, let you coordinate the Mentimeter exercise.
Okay, yeah. Hope you all managed to get in. If so, please your thumbs up so we can check. And meanwhile, I will read you the example of Marianne, who has just been diagnosed with hypertension and has just started her treatment. So during the first 3 weeks, she tried to take her pills daily and record her blood pressure data in her app every morning. Her blood pressure has been stable for the last week, but some days Mariana noticed side effects after taking the pills. She wonders if she really needs this medication in the long term. And she asks herself, if my blood pressure is under control and I don't feel well after taking these pills, do I really need to take them? So we'll go to the first question, that is, what phase of the treatment is she in? And please, again, when you send your answer, put your thumbs up. So okay. So, oh, still answering. Okay, so very equal, initiating and continuing. No one choose maintaining.
So what is what is the difference? What do I don't know, Marcia, Marie, what do you think about these two phases? And what's the threshold between them?
I can start answering this. Okay, so as you all might think, since it's quite a similar number of persons answering, initiating and continuing, it's quite difficult to decide in which phase she's in. And it's not obvious what problem she has, but I would say she's in the beginning of treatment, and some patients could be in the initiating phase when having this question, and some are in the continuing phase. It depends on who the patient is and what concerns they have. Some patients have these questions very early, and some patients get them a little bit later on. So I would say it's maybe both, but if it's a hypertension treatment, it's supposed to be a long-term treatment. I would say if she's in the first week, it's in the initiating phase because she's still getting used to the medication and so on. So it's mostly in the initiating phase, but the most important thing is not distinguishing which phase she's in. It's acknowledging these two different phases and that the patient might have different problems in these phases. So if you want to design a technology to support patients in the initiating phase, you might have to tackle these kinds of problems in that technology. And if you want to design the technology to be used in the continuing phase, then you also need to acknowledge this. So the most important thing is to know that you should include these different support features in both types of technologies to support these phases.
We can perhaps,
yeah.
Yeah, no, I was thinking that perhaps we can move to the next question also because 4 minutes are left from the webinar, and also to mention to you that if more questions arise, you can add them to the question and answer. We might not be able to answer them all at the moment, but we can answer them as in reply to this webinar, because we have the contact details of the participants, and we will share with you the slides. We will share with you some information after this, and also we will post it on the website so that you can access it. And I see that you have already started to propose some key barriers, and I'll let Sarah to coordinate this.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, so just remember what we've seen. They can be psychological, physical, beliefs. Okay. Poor knowledge, side effects, beliefs about illness. Okay, yeah, so clearly Marianne needs more information about her side effects and how to manage them. Maybe we can offer her to contact her clinician in order to check if they are important, if they are normal, and how to manage them.
Yeah, and I find it very interesting that indeed in this initiation/beginning of implementation phase, it's a lot of actually it's quite a long process in many conditions and many medications, because one thing is the moment of, okay, I took a first pill, but then what is it for? Did I really understand it? What happens to me? Do I really understand it? What happens to my body? What are the consequences of even the different missing or delaying? Or it's a temporal process. It takes place in time, sometimes longer for some patients, and supporting this sort of transformation at the beginning, it's needs quite a few ingredients depending on the patient. So maybe we can move to the next question now, to solutions, because already we started discussing about that. Yeah.
So what are the possible solutions that come to mind in order to help Marianne? So things that you may think can be included in your app or technology. Okay, consultation to dive deeper into beliefs, attitudes, find solution to side effects, patient education, improve our knowledge. Okay, a lot about knowledge. Nice, yes. So as we've seen in the webinar, this could be included in the technologies, although help her understand the barriers. Yeah, in multiple formats, written, with videos, with quizzes, with the VCTs monitoring her symptoms, testimonials from other users. That would be great. Yeah, monitor symptoms in order to identify them.
And if I may add, it's nice that you see that it's not only to, patient education or improving knowledge is one thing, but it's actually, it's that doesn't do the trick. It's also the consultation with the patient, actually a good conversation about the beliefs, what Marianne has about her illness, about her medication. Might there be some concerns below the surface? So yeah, it's nice to see them both coming back here.
And also to highlight the importance of really integrating technologies into routine care and into clinical practice, so that they could complement each other, different interventions, and the technology can be complemented also by specific and tailored advice from healthcare professionals. I think there is also a question here about different user personas, and can a single app can help all these personas? And I think one of very short answer, and then perhaps we can provide more in written after this webinar, is that of course, tailoring can be made to some extent in a technology, but technology used within a context where also human interaction can tailor different solutions and point patients to different options. That could be also an answer, and for this also the Enable Network is aiming to provide this platform for more collaboration, so that technologies can be used in clinical practice. And I give the floor to Sarah for a final word.
Yeah, just here we added some additional resources. Obviously, the link to Enable, to the country searcher, where you can look for the team in each country. Also, the girls' emails, where you can write them with all these questions that couldn't be solved in this webinar, or further questions or suggestions that come to mind. And also, I will thank you if you fill this post-webinar questionnaire. That will be very useful for my thesis. And just to thank you all, especially Alex, Marcia, and Marie, for giving me this opportunity and being with me here. And thank you all. Hope it was useful, and looking forward to more webinars.
Thank you very much, and see you soon at the next webinar then.